creating a cinematic camera fade in Unity.
In the last lesson, we successfully created our camera fade effect. However, at this point, the fade is extremely quick and would be over before the player realized it. So in this video, we'll create the code to control our fade speed. We'll begin by opening our code editing software. To be able to control the speed of the fade, we need to divide the delta time by the number we place in the public float variable called fade time, which we created in the last lesson. To do this, inside the update method to the right of current time in the color lerp line of code, inside the parentheses, simply type \fade time. With that complete, let's save our script and go back into Unity to test it out. Inside the Unity inspector, place a number above 0 inside the fade time input box and press play. You should notice that your fade effect is equal to the fade time. If you preview this with the inspector debug menu enabled, you will notice the fade color alpha will only be set to complete black at the moment the current time matches the fade time. The next thing we'll address is the issue that our fade begins the moment the screen starts. While in some cases that may be exactly what we want, in others we may want a brief pause before the fade begins, as well as the ability for us, the designers or developers, to dictate how long that pause will be. To do this, we'll create what's called a coroutine. For those that are unfamiliar with working with coroutines, within Unity, a coroutine is a type of function or method that can stop its execution until some time or certain conditions are met, at which point it continues from where it had left off. With that being said, once again, open your fade script inside of your scripting editor software. To create a coroutine is a bit different than creating a regular method. Instead of typing void, then the method's unique name, we'll type IE numerator, then the method's unique name. Additionally, unlike the standard methods, a coroutine must always have a yield instruction finish. To do this, within the coroutine, type yield return null and in that line of code with a semicolon. With our finish yield instruction in place, we can begin creating our code that will pause the fade at the start of our scene and only allow it to start after a dictated amount of time. To do this, above your finish field instruction, type yield return new, wait for seconds, parentheses, semicolon. Since we want to be able to control the amount of seconds our coroutine waits, we need to create a new public integer that we'll call pause before fade. Once created, type pause before fade into the parentheses of wait for seconds. At this point, we need to create a way for our coroutine to initiate the start of our camera fade. In order to do this, we'll create a private Boolean variable that we'll call canStartFade. With our Boolean created, within our coroutine under the wait for seconds line of code, type canStartFade equals true. Now that we have our coroutine set up, we'll need to do two additional things in order to have the functionality to control our fade start time. The first is initiating our coroutine, and the second is using our start fade boolean to initiate our fade. To do the first, in the start method, type start coroutine, parentheses, quotations, and type start camera fade in the quotations. For the second, in the update method and above the current time line of code, type if parentheses canStartFade, open curly bracket, and place a close curly bracket under the color lerp line of code. With this portion of our code complete, we can now save the script and go back into Unity to test our new functionality. Inside the Unity inspector, place a number above 0 inside the pause before fade input box and press play. With the debug inspector enabled, you should now notice the current time will not start until the amount of seconds you placed in the pause before fade and the can start fade is true. At this point, we're able to adjust and choose both lengths of time of our fade as well as the time before our fade begins. However, we need to further optimize our script for both the user and the performance impact it will have for our game. We'll do this in the next lesson, so be sure to subscribe and join us in the next and final lesson where we'll optimize and put the final touches on our cinematic camera fade.